Okay. Well, thank you, Eshan and Tony Perry, for inviting me to speak here today. It's great to hear the increase in interest in life cycle assessment, as this is one of my passions. For those of you who already know me, um, I know it's probably been a whirlwind so far, so I'll try to keep my presentation brief but also informative. My role in today's presentation is to provide you a brief overview of how we foresee the use of life cycle assessments or EPDs in payment design. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today in my presentation. To give you a better understanding of my role at FHWA's interest in LCA, I would like to start with providing some background on the Sustainable Pavements Program. The FHWA Sustainable Pavements Program was actually chartered back in 2010 by my colleague Gina Alstrom, with a specific mission to advance the knowledge and practice of designing, constructing, and maintaining more sustainable pavements. We do this through stakeholder engagement, through our TIG meetings that meets twice a year. Many of you have been involved in those meetings. Education and development of guidance and tools. So I'm actually located out in the headquarters of Federal Highways, and we focus on, again, guidance, tools, technical information, and education. So that's our role. The first 5 years of this program were really to benchmark what was the current state of knowledge and practice in payment sustainability. And there's two main documents that were published under the program during these years. The first highlights sustainable approaches, and it looks at it from a perspective of life cycle of a payment, and that's in the Towards Sustainable Payment Systems, the reference document. And the second is a framework for conducting a life cycle assessment, and that's the Pavement Lifecycle Assessment Framework. Both of these documents are available online, and the link is provided there. So I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to download them and reference them where needed. One of the important outcomes in the creation of these documents was really a definition for sustainable pavements, which we have here as one, making sure you achieve your engineering goals, and so ultimately it's performance-based. Can't neglect that. But also, can you do that in a way that keeps your environmental systems, human equity, and uses your resources wisely as well. The second phase of the Sustainable Pavement Program is to, or the second phase, we're midway in the second phase. And the first outcome of this phase was to identify what are some of the gaps and what are some activities we could pursue in the coming years to bridge these gaps. And of that, the assessing pavement sustainability is really pertinent to our discussion today relating to life cycle assessment. When we look at assessing sustainability, it's important to note that we look at the three pillars of sustainability, which again relates back to the definition of pavement sustainability. One, for economic efficiency, we have life cycle cost analysis. For environmental stewardship, we have the life cycle assessment, which is pertinent to today's discussion. And for the social pillar, we have sustainability rating systems. Of these assessment techniques, the FHWA Sustainable Payments Program is strategically focusing on that life cycle assessment and advancing this area for payment design. One of the reasons we are focusing on this area is due to the growing interest in life cycle assessment. You have several state agencies that have shown interest in LCA at various levels, from implementing policies such as Caltrans, and which you saw earlier today through Aman's presentation, where they were starting to require environmental product declarations, to various research studies that are being conducted, one at Minnesota and Department of Transportation. They're looking at evaluating the feasibility of requesting EPDs, just to give you a flavor of a few. You also saw this figure earlier today in some of the presentations, but this is one of the important outcomes of the Sustainable Payments Program initiatives. And it really identifies the steps required or elements necessary for payment LCA implementation in payment design. With the release of the LCA framework, we're currently at the bottom. We've created a strong base of this pyramid, but we have a lot of work moving up the pyramid to fill in these data gaps, which have been a large part of our discussion today. One of the potential solutions that we foresee is the use of environmental product declarations. Environmental product declarations, we see these being used in two different ways. The first way is during initial design, you would use an industry average or regional EPDs that various states could have, if they have have already collected EPDs, could have their own averages created, and this would be used to help to develop pavement structural design choices or material design decisions. Then, when you come to what pavement design has already been determined and the material types have been determined, you could have plant-specific, mix-specific EPDs that could be used in selecting a contractor during an alternate bid type process. And this is important because this is what essentially incentivizes the environmental performance up that supply chain. So it gives some incentives to the material suppliers to improve their manufacturing process. It is important to note that currently there are many challenges, many of them have been discussed, with using EPDs in this form or fashion today. First of all, there's currently little or no demand for EPDs, so if you were to go out and look for these EPDs, they're not easily accessible to find, and few contractors are getting them. Second, the product category rules which define the EPDs are not equivalent, and they're not harmonized. For example, the background data sources that are being used in these EPDs may be different, which can significantly impact the results. So the background data sets that are used in the asphalt industries, EPDs are different than the background data sets used in concrete, and this is hence one of the problems and why you cannot compare concrete mix versus the asphalt mix, among many others, but just to highlight one of the issues. One of the reasons is largely due to this limited availability of the public data sets and some of the apparent gaps and holes. And so that has caused other material manufacturers to purchase private data sets, and it has ranged into various EPDs, and it's known to impact the results. Lastly, one that I would like to focus that hasn't been discussed as much is this need for education. Alyssa did mention in the first presentation that there is quite a bit of confusion amongst our industry between life cycle cost assessment and life cycle assessment. And so that's something that we continually will have to be educating our stakeholders on. As a result, the FHWA Sustainable Pavements Program has planned several activities to focus on in the upcoming years that address some of these issues and concerns that were noted above. The first project that I would like to highlight here is to work on the data issue by developing a common background public data set, so a roadmap to developing those data sets, and providing some guidance for improving PCRs, specifically with regards to prescribing background data sets in PCRs. This project is being funded by our research arm, Turner Fairbanks, and will involve a significant amount of collaboration with other federal agencies, including our national labs, which are largely responsible for creating many of the public data sets. And we are doing this through FHWA's involvement in a collaborative effort called the U.S. Federal LCA Commons. If you need the link, it's for the LCA Commons for more background information, it's provided here on the slide as well. The end deliverable of this project will not only identify those public background data sets, but it will also create several product systems in an open LCA platform. So it can be free for anyone to use or LCA consultants to download, and they will be in line with FHWA's LCA for Pavements framework. The second project attempts to help educate agencies on LCA and create a demand through EPDs, and this is through creating an LCA benchmarking tool. It will be a simple tool, Excel-based, and many of you may ask why another tool, because we've seen that there's many LCA tools for pavements out there. And what is unique about this tool is it is being created by stakeholders with a public review process, very similar to how PCRs are being created. So we have a small select group of DOTs that are spearing up the creation of this tool. We are using the Sustainable Pavements Technical Working Group to get stakeholder feedback, and we're trying to do it in an open and transparent process as possible. This tool is seen as a first step, so it is not going to be perfect by any means or form. And we would hope to continually improve it. One of the gaps in this tool is we would be not including the use phase, and that's largely due to some of the uncertainties involved with the use phase models, and the fact that these use phase models can or impacts can overshadow your results in general. Another additional highlight of this tool that I would like to focus on is it really will use public background data sets, which I don't know that many of the other tools do. And that's important for the public or the federal government here in the US is the use of public data. And it's in line with our principles. And then we're also looking at incorporating the material EPDs. And so I don't know that there's too many tools out there, at least for pavements, that look at that issue of how EPDs would be a puzzle piece to an overall pavement LCA moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, there are some gaps in the use phase. One in particular is this issue of pavement vehicle interaction. Again, in our research arm with Turner Fairbank, we are working on a project that will be evaluating various pavement vehicle action models and their applicability for use in LCA. So that is something we have on the forefront that could possibly be integrated into the tool in the near future. Lastly, FHWA is going to take a large role in education and outreach. This is going to be a little bit different than our traditional documents that are pretty lengthy and textbook type technical reading materials, and it's going to be focused on more modern ways to get information out, such as short videos, one-pagers, social media, and webinars. And then once the tool is created, to get and encourage state DOTs to start using the tool, we would look at case studies in a pilot program. All of our information is available online to the public. So if you want access to any of the resources that we have published already, please visit the website. If you want to be included on our email list, there's a place that you can sign up. I will caution that we haven't started a plan on how we're going to use this, but that's going to be part of our marketing and outreach plan. So you'll be getting notifications when our website is updated and new materials have been posted. So that's how we look forward to getting information out. And my email information is here if you have any questions. Please do not hesitate to contact me. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Heather. And again, as with all presenters, thank you for providing this wonderful overview. And I know it's short amount of time, so I kind of feel guilty for not having a lot of time for all the presenters. But again, the idea with this webinar is really for us as a committee to help identify gaps and go from there. And as I told all the other speakers, I will be emailing you questions, or Yaning would be one of us. Well, we've been noting them down with any things that any of the audience members may have. Since we are running a little bit late and I don't want to go past the amount of time that we have signed up for, what I propose is for Tony Parry to go ahead and take over. So give me just 1 second, Tony. I'll give you the presentation right here, and we'll have Tony will really be summarizing, as Yaning mentioned earlier, all the presentations, and also help identify where the needs are. So Heather, if you don't mind stopping your screen share, that will allow Tony to be able to take the screen share. Thank you very much.